Overlooking Meridian Place, a 32-story building is being proposed on Collier Street in downtown Barrie. The current proposal to build a 98 meters tower is almost double the earlier proposal of an 18-story building. The building will have a total 253 residential units, 234 parking spaces, and more than 12,000 square meters of retail space. However, there will be no dedicated commercial parking space as city's zoning bylaw does not require it. 1, 2, and 3 bedroom units are being proposed to attract different types of housing groups, such as those looking to downsize to single family households or those looking to enter the market. At least 10% of the units are going to be 3 bedrooms. The final staff report is expected to come out in mid to late next year after incorporating comments and feedback, and the construction will start not before 2024.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's neighborhood meeting. My name is Tyler Butler, and I'm a planner with the City of Barrie's Development Services Department. I'm not the file manager on this file, but I am going to be hosting tonight's meeting. The file manager is one of our senior urban design planners, Jordan Lambie. Unfortunately, he's ill and could not attend tonight, so the show must go on, so that's what we're going to do. And the purpose of tonight's neighborhood meeting is to present to you the neighborhood, a development concept being considered by the owner and the development team of 49 Collier Street. And prior to a formal development application being submitted to the city, this neighborhood meeting provides an opportunity for that development team to hear the initial community feedback and incorporate it into their plans prior to making that full and formal application to the city. So please be aware, we are recording this meeting for the public tonight, and the recording will be used for the purposes of garnering your input and to respond to inquiries, and will be considered public information. So please be aware that as a registered attendee tonight, your mailing or email address will be added to the mailing list so that you can receive further information about this application as it progresses. Should you have any questions about this collection, feel free to reach out to us at the Development Services Department and we'll explain it all to you. So I would also like to let everyone know that there are staff behind the scenes tonight managing the technology, and they're here to make sure that the meeting does run smoothly and to grant participants the opportunity to speak and to assist with any questions in the chat that might come up. So please bear with us if we do have any issues tonight. And if you do get disconnected, reach out to us and we'll do our best to get you back into the meeting so that you don't miss too much. So before we begin, I just want to go over the meeting expectations, is what you'll see up on the screen right now. So the intent of tonight's meeting is to provide members of the public with an opportunity to become familiar with this development. And the application and the planning review process, and to also ask the applicant questions so that they can provide some feedback. So what can you expect during tonight's neighborhood meeting? Well, you can expect a brief overview of the city's review process and timing, a presentation from the applicant's team, and an opportunity to ask questions. So what not to expect tonight? Well, you're not going to be receiving a city recommendation on this application or a detailed analysis on this proposal. That occurs later in the phase, again, as once we get that formal application and we move through the public meeting process to a formalized staff report. And you should also not expect a debate on the merits of the application tonight. Again, this neighborhood meeting is to receive the feedback to then act upon. So before we get into the presentation, I just wanted to quickly highlight the next steps in the application process. So this neighborhood meeting is established very early in the development process to ensure that the local concerns are heard and are incorporated into the application so that it can be addressed through the city's review. So after this meeting, we do expect that the applicant will make a formal submission, and with that, it will undergo a full technical review and must address the comments received tonight. from this neighborhood meeting and all of the city's technical commenters and external agencies that would provide comment. So in conjunction with this is a statutory public meeting, as I mentioned before, and it will be held in person and likely virtually on the application at Planning Committee. It is at the public meeting in the future where applicants will present their application to council, answer questions, and provide an overview of the response and to any issues, concerns identified at this neighborhood meeting. And of course, as part of the public meeting, members of the public also have an additional opportunity to speak and provide either written comment as well. So following that public meeting, staff will continue the technical review process and applicants will make any necessary revisions to their proposal. And once that review process has concluded, as mentioned before, the staff recommendation report is brought forward to council for their consideration. So all comments received through the entirety of that process, including those received tonight at this neighborhood meeting, will be identified and addressed in that staff report and will form part of staff's recommendation on this application. So when can we expect that report? Well, I would expect that report to come sometime in mid to late 2023. So with that being said, I'm now going to move on to the applicant's presentation, and their team is going to present you with that. And then after that, we will have our question and answer period. So tonight we are focusing on the zoning bylaw amendment proposed at 49 Collier Street. And tonight the applicant's team, we've got Michael from Vanny from Weston Consulting, Andrew Shields, who's their project architect, Simon, who's representing the owner, and Matthew also from Weston Consulting. So with that, I think I'm going to stop sharing my screen now. So hello, everybody. And the applicant's team is going to take control of the screen and they're going to present to you their development concept. So if Michael and team, if you guys would like to take over now and share your screen and begin your part of the presentation.
Perfect. Thank you, Tyler. Can everybody see my screen and hear me okay right now?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, so I guess thank you, Tyler, for that introduction, and thanks everybody for joining us this evening. It seems I unfortunately have to say there's only going to be so many nice days left and so many nice evenings left before the winter hits us, so thank you for taking some time on this lovely evening to sit with us for a bit and go over our application proposal with you. Like Tyler said, I'm joined by Matthew Batika in my office, who's assisting me on this project, Simon McKenzie, who is a representative from the developer, and Andrew Shields, who is our architect and urban designer, who's done a great job, we think, at designing this beautiful building that we're going to present to you this evening. So the addresses of the properties are 47, 49, 53, and 51 Collier Street, and 9 and 23 Owen. So it's an amalgamation of 6 parcels, but roughly that is the southeast corner of Colliers and Owen, which I'm sure you're all aware of this evening. The main purpose of this application, as Tyler said, is to receive your feedback tonight. It's not going to be the only opportunity you have to share your thoughts with us. We welcome everybody to speak tonight and provide your feedback. As well, you can reach out to us after the fact. We'll provide our contact information at the end of this meeting. You can also reach out through city staff that can relay any comments to us as well. And then again, you will have opportunities in the future to provide feedback as well once a formal application is submitted. So the purpose of the discussion tonight is with respect to our proposal for a 32-story mixed-use building on the site, which does require a zoning bylaw amendment process. So I'm briefly going to take you through a few things. I did introduce the consultant team that's with us this evening. However, there's been a lot of work that's been going on behind the scenes to get an application prepared. As Tyler said, there has not been a formal submission yet to the city, but one will be coming in the next few weeks. We wanted to wait to get your feedback tonight before submitting that application. And on the screen before you is just a few of the consultants that we want to give some recognition to that have also been helping to work on that. There is detailed engineering plans, studies, landscape studies, wind studies, survey work, hydro-G work, and this has all been done in behind the scenes to make sure that we were providing a full, complete application to the city for their review. So without further ado, we'll get into some of the site context. I'm sure everyone's well aware of the location of the site in downtown Barrie. The air photo is a little bit outdated because it is currently a vacant site right now, but the primary frontage is along Collier Street. That has about 41 meters of frontage and then 68 meters along Owen Street. Overall, it has about a site area of 2,500 square meters, which is about 0.63 acre. As you know, there's a significant, well, I don't want to say significant, but a rather acknowledging a slope from Collier's down towards Owen as it slopes down towards the lake, as much as the downtown does. It's fairly prominent on the site as well, which we've used to kind of create an active streetscape, which Andrew will take you through in a bit. So it's important when looking at a new development application, new development proposal, what we look at as planners is how does a new application fit within the context of the land use planning vision for an area? What do city residents want to see through their official plan process? What is the applicable policy? And how do we understand what would best fit for different communities, not only across Barrie, but across the province? So it really is a top-down approach to planning in Ontario, where you have the province at the top of the umbrella, or at the top of the pyramid, sets overarching policy guidelines that guide development. And then it's up to the municipalities to take those policies and incorporate them in a site-specific context. Then it's up to the private developers and planners to look at those policies and provide different types of applications to fit with them. So one of the overarching policies that the province has is the growth plan, and that directs new intensification and growth to particular areas of the province that can handle additional growth and intensification. And those are areas typically like downtown Barrie that have an abundance of services and infrastructure that can accommodate growth, where transit is more viable and there are more services for a growing population. So downtown Barrie in the growth plan is identified as an urban growth center. So that is an area where the majority of the growth and intensification is going to be focused within Barrie to avoid sprawling out communities. One of the principal requirements of the growth plan is that downtown Barrie have a minimum growth rate of approximately 150 people and jobs per hectare in the downtown area. So that's evident here in the city's official plan policy that identifies the intensification areas. Next, we go into the city's official plan. So the city's official plan provides the overarching policy context for how development is going to happen within Barrie. It provides the land use planning vision of where the commercial development is going to go, where is the high-rise buildings going to go, and where are parks and single-family residential homes going to go. So consistent with and in conformity with the region's policies, the City of Barrie official plan, the current one in force, designates the land use as city center. So very much aligned with the urban growth center boundary. It's an area that's planned to have the largest range and mix of uses, residential, institutional, and commercial, and have a wide range of different build forms, high and medium density, and different types of building types. So I say the current official plan because that's the official plan that's been in force in Barrie for a number of years. But the city, some of you may know, has recently approved a new official plan. So that was approved by City Council in February of this year. It is not yet fully in force, as it still has to make its way through the provincial approvals process, but it does give us an indication of what council wants to see and what the people of Barrie want to see as they plan for the next 30 or 40 years. And the new official plan designates the area as high density, which again, very consistent with the older policy, but just a little bit more prescriptive in providing that higher density in the centralized core of the downtown area to have a mix of residential and commercial uses. So then as we get further down the pyramid, we get into what is the city's zoning bylaw. So the City of Barrie zoning bylaw designates the site as commercial, central area commercial 2, which is the central mainly the central area of the downtown. So that's that whole area on the site. We've got that reddish burgundy color. Those are the highest intensity areas of the city. And then you have the lighter orangey red color around, and those are the transition centers of the downtown, where you're going to see lower density and lower heights, kind of as it creates a pyramid down towards the more lower density areas of the city. The central area to commercial zone does permit, as a base case, a maximum of 45-meter building height and a maximum gross floor area of 600% of the lot area. So that's a percentage or ratio of how much floor area is being built versus the size of the lot. And we'll get into a little bit further on into the application, what amendments we're seeking to the zoning bylaw so that we can implement our development as we're going to present to you this evening. So without further ado, let's get down to what are we actually proposing to build on the site, and how does that policy context that I just spoke about going to inform our development plans. So before I turn it over to Andrew, I'm just going to do a little bit of a high-level analysis of some of the stats. So as I said, we're going to be doing a mixed-use high-rise building. That's what's proposed on the site at 32 stories in height is our ultimate proposal as it sits right now. And that breaks into 253 residential units and 1,272 square meters of retail area. And that's an important distinction because working with city staff, we wanted to make sure that we were providing a range and mix of uses. As I said, that's the policy direction to have that. And as well to ensure that there's new commercial opportunities for the growing downtown, for the future residents of this building, and for existing residents in the area as well. And so that we can also create a very vibrant streetscape. So as part of those 250 units, we're still working through the process. As we've said, the formal application hasn't been submitted yet. But one of the key factors that we're really looking at is to ensure that there's a wide variety of different types and making sure that we're providing a range of, 1-bedroom units, 2-bedroom units, 3-bedroom units to make sure that there's an opportunity for various different housing groups to join into this development and into this area, whether that be, those looking to downsize, single-family households, or those looking to enter the market. So one of the key, priorities of the city's official plan, as well as the hierarchy of policies, is to have that. So there will be at least over 10% of units are going to be 3-bedroom and a significant amount of 2-bedroom units. So tend to have a good range of larger units, which we think will be beneficial overall to the community. So as well, in doing that, all of these new units, there's going to be a lot of residents living in those units, and they're going to need a place to park. So as part of the application process, we're proposing a total of 5 levels of parking. Seems like a lot, but really there's going to be some parking at grade at the rear, which Andrew will take you through as he goes through the plans, but also kind of parking through 1 level of underground parking and 4 levels of above ground parking. And the distinction there is, I'm sure you know, where there's a very high water table in the Barrie area, so the proximity to the lake. So that's why there's only 1 level of underground and 4 levels above, which we have planned to screen from public view through articulated massing and a beautiful building that Andrew will take you through. But as part of the application process, we're going to have a total of 234 parking spaces, which comes down to a range of about 0.92 parking spaces per unit, and no parking dedicated specifically for commercial uses, as the city zoning bylaw does not require it, and there's plentiful parking along the streets within the downtown area. So I'm going to get over to Andrew so he can present, I guess, what everybody's really here to see, the detailed designs and the fancy pictures.
Thank you, Michael, for the introduction and the planning policies. As introduced earlier, my name is Andrew Shields. I'm the principal at Scott Shields Architects. We've been working on the design of this site. We've also been working on some other sites within downtown Barrie. And we consider this to be an extremely important site within the downtown area. And we also consider the downtown area of Barrie itself to be an extremely exciting place to be working right now, an exciting place to be living. Lots of stuff happening, lots of energy in the city, a really thriving community that we're trying to add a further piece to here. So starting off with the site plan for the building, as Michael introduced, we have a 32-story residential building here with 4 stories above grade parking, 1 story below. In an ideal world, we would love to have more below grade parking, but the soil conditions of the downtown area do not allow for that. We're thankful that we do have enough soil capacity and water table depth that we can do 1 level of below grade, which is great. That's allowed us to keep the above grade parking to 4 levels, which we'll talk about later when I show you some of the renderings and elevations and how we've designed the base of the building to do that. So in general, some of you may be aware there was a previous proposal in place for this site that was an 18-story building that was really a sort of lot line to lot line slab building. And when our client came to us with this site, we thought that a more appropriate massing for the site and for a residential use, which what we're looking for, would be to create more of a tower form. Because what the tower form does is that allows you to consolidate the massing into 1 spot. In this case, it's been positioned closer to the Collier Street side of the building. And that allows you to have a base which you can keep the massing lower, create a bit more pedestrian-friendly environment, create more light and views within the streets, actually in many cases reduce the shadow impact. So there's lots of benefits to having a consolidated tower massing as opposed to an overall lot line to lot line massing, which is what we've tried to do here. The building has a series of terraces that you can see on the site plan, and we'll see clearer again on the renderings and elevations. Starting off at a 2-story base at the southernmost point. And just to orient yourself here, south is actually to the left-hand side of this slide, just the way it was formatted for presentation purposes. So we have a 2-story portion at the southernmost side of the site, and that is to relate to the buildings on Dunlop Street side. There's some significant historical buildings down there that we didn't want to overwhelm. So we've kept the massing as low as possible at that side of the site. And then the podium gradually terraces up to the 10th floor, where it then turns into the tower form, rising up until the 27th floor, and then a series of terraces at the top of the tower, which give the tower top a distinctive form that relates back to the base of the building as well. The tower is also set back on all sides, so it's set back about 3.5 meters from Collier, 9 meters on the east property line, and over 4 meters from the on-street frontage. Please move to the next slide, please. At the ground floor, and the ground floor is a little hard to depict in a single drawing because there's actually, due to the slope on Street, there's really sort of 2 ground floors. But I'll go through. The idea we're trying to do here is have as much active frontage on Owen Street and Collier Street as possible. We did not want to put parking in these floors. We didn't want to have any blank walls. So on Collier Street, we have 2 retail spaces and the residential lobby, providing an active frontage all across there. You'll also see on the corner of Collier and Owen Street that the building sets back significantly, creating a substantial pedestrian zone on the corner of the two streets. And then as we move down Owen Street, there's a further retail as the building steps down, which would actually be underneath what you're seeing here. By the time you get to the southern end of the site, this is actually the 2nd floor. And so we have residential amenity use along that frontage as well, so that we can have full active frontage along there with further retail below. So there will be full retail uses along Owen Street and along Collier Street. The other key thing to point out on this slide is the loading and vehicular access, which has been tucked around the back of the site, accessed via the laneway. There is a piece of land that would be conveyed to the city as part of this proposal to allow for a widened laneway, and that will allow for loading vehicles and residents' vehicles accessing the site to not interrupt any of the frontages along Collier or Owen Street. Move to the next slide, please. And so now I'll just talk to you about some of the overall design concepts that I'm trying to do. So what we've aimed to achieve with the site is really looking at it in three distinct areas. One is, how does this respond to the city? The second one is, how does this respond to the neighbourhood? And thirdly, how does this respond to the pedestrian at street level? So starting off with the city scale, we've looked at the overall height, having a distinctive top to the building, the series of terraces at the top of the building, everything facing towards the lake. So you notice that the entire building terraces facing the lake and looking down over the beautiful parks that go down to the lakefront from your downtown. And really, it's the height we feel signifies that this is the downtown core. There's other buildings currently under construction and other ones planned in the downtown that are of the same height and in some cases slightly higher. We feel that this is the appropriate height for this site to really signify the importance and the growing stature of the downtown of Barrie. When we then come down to a more neighbourhood scale, what we're trying to achieve at that point is a building that complements both the existing and the planned urban form of the downtown. And I say the existing and the plan because there's definitely benefits to both. There are some beautiful historic buildings in downtown that we want to respect, but there's also a lot of change happening. And so we need to respond to both. So what we tried to do here is, with the series of steps in the podium, where you can see on that middle slide, that we've created a brick base that gradually steps up from 2 stories on the south up to 10 stories at the northern side where it interacts with the tower. The 2-story portion is in a proportionate scale with the buildings on Dunlop Street. And as it rises up to 10 stories, it becomes more of a proportional scale with some of the planned context and also some of the existing context being City Hall directly across on Collier Street. So that's how we're trying to connect these 2 scales together at the same time. It also speaks to the lower scale of the lake and then the higher scale of the city. So the building is sort of connecting those 2 things together at the same time. In terms of materiality, we're looking at a red brick. The exact brick is still to be determined, but a red brick, which again we think one I myself think is a fantastic material for an urban environment. But specifically in the downtown of Barrie, can be very complementary with some of the existing buildings that are already there. And then if we come down again to the last scale we looked at, which is the street scale, I've already talked about the active frontages that we're trying to achieve on all sites. And you can see on the elevations how we have retail use that steps down as Owen Street steps down to the south. The same thing on Collier Street, where we have active retail across the front. The step back at the corner, which you can see in the rendering on the left-hand side, to create the larger pedestrian environment at the front. And in terms of where we do have the parking, which becomes more prominent from really levels 3 and 4, which is where it's full levels of parking. What we're proposing on those floors is a significant piece of public art that would take the form of right now our thoughts are that there would be some form of perforated metal panel with an artwork on it. We would be looking to work with an artist to collaborate with to produce a piece of artwork, and that's something that we would be looking to work with the city through, which we think would be a substantial substantial benefit, and also would hide and screen the parking uses within. Yeah, I think you can move on to the next slide. Okay. So I'll just quickly touch on the landscape and the streetscape, and then I'll pass it back to Michael. So I've already mentioned the fact that we are looking to cut back at the ground floor to create some wider pedestrian spaces, particularly on the corner. Landscape treatment would be following existing landscape landscape protocols that are in place for the city, the urban design that's in place. So following that language and continuing it out, you can see the streets, the sidewalks would get wider throughout. There is a bus stop right directly outside the site, which we would be incorporating into the new landscape requirement. That was something that was discussed in the previous application that we'd like to continue through into this application as well. Okay, and I think that's pretty much covers everything that we wanted to go over. The amenity spaces, sorry, just quickly. Well, amenity spaces would be located on the 5th floor terrace of the building on the south side. This is just a sort of an initial concept of what we'd be looking to do. And as I just see the interior native plants, it reminds me of one further important point, which I've not touched on yet, is that our client here is committed to this building being a LEED Gold building. So we will be striving for this to be a LEED Gold building. So that would include items such as native and drought resistant planting, extensive green roofs throughout the building. We'll be looking to have extremely energy efficient building envelope, mechanical systems. So all that will come together to provide an extremely energy efficient, sustainable LEED Gold building. Okay. I think I'll pass it back to you at this point, Mike.
Perfect. Thank you, Andrew, and thank you for taking us through the great designs. I'm just going to briefly kind of go through what we anticipate as part of the development application that's going to be before you, and just a brief summary again of some of the next steps after this meeting before we open it up to the Q&A portion and get everybody's feedback on the proposal that we presented tonight. So as we've said earlier, as part of the development application, it is a zoning bylaw amendment that's required to facilitate this application as we've demonstrated tonight. That's the application that we'll be filing within the next few weeks with the city for technical review. And it's the reason we're here this evening. We're looking to maintain the existing zoning that is permitted on the site and then making some site-specific exceptions. And those site-specific exceptions are to allow for the building to fit within the context of the policies that are there and to seek minor relief from certain standards so that we can get the building approved as we've presented here this evening. So as part of that application process, on the screen is just a few of the zoning relief items that we anticipate are going to need. This is going to require formal review by the city once the submission is filed, and they'll be confirming exactly what zoning relief items we're going to require and the appropriateness of them. But at present, the zoning bylaw amendment is being submitted to seek a maximum building height of 98 years, which is 32 stories, to permit a maximum gross floor area of 947% of the lot, permit a minimum lot coverage of 36% for commercial uses, to permit a minimum parking ratio of 0.92 spaces per dwelling unit, permit a minimum of 1 loading space, and remove the required landscape strip along the rear and side lot lines so that we can accommodate the laneway and move all of the internal vehicle and site components to the rear of the site where they won't be impacting the streetscape. So as part of this application, there was a previous minor variance as well back in 2020 that was approved under the previous application that did increase the height and the floor area, as well as sought reductions to the commercial uses and the parking. So a lot of this is an extension of that. Given that it is a new application under a new owner and a new use is being proposed, it's basically like from starting from scratch. So although those minor variances were previously approved, we are seeking amendments to those applications back to the original zone. So in terms of next steps this evening, as we said earlier, myself and Tyler, this isn't your only opportunity to present your feedback. So what's going to happen after this evening is we're going to review the comments from everyone's feedback at this open house tonight. We're going to consider amendments to the development proposal. And based on your feedback, we're going to submit the application to the city for review and comment. And then that will go out to technical agencies within and technical departments within the city of Barrie, as well as Lakes and Region Conservation Authority and outside jurisdictions to provide their comments on the appropriateness of the application. And then there will be a future statutory public meeting held before the Barrie Planning Committee. And that will be a further opportunity for everyone to come and speak your feedback on the application once it's submitted to the committee and to council. As I said earlier, you can also reach out to us in advance if you have any questions or comments so that we can consider them. If you don't want to share them this evening, or if you want to take the plans back and take a look at everything before you share your opinions tonight, that's also an option. We will be presenting our feedback, our contact information at the end of this meeting. So once the statutory public meeting happens, and once we receive all of the comments from the technical agencies and departments, there will be further amendments to the development proposal to make sure all of those comments are addressed, whether those be traffic comments, engineering comments, or anything, just to make sure that the application meets all applicable standards. And then finally, staff will prepare a final recommendation report for the application to be considered by the Planning Committee and eventually City Council at a future time once all comments have been addressed. So that's the proposal from this evening. I would thank you, everybody,